Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Jeremy,
I'm Alan.
and you are officially tuned into the GG Dispatch. Each week on Tuesday, bright and early, we consolidate the week's biggest headlines in gaming news. Whether you're listening in on your commute, during your workout, or you just have us on in the background, we want to thank you for listening in. And speaking of thanks, another kind thank you to the kind folks. Very repetitive. Another thank you to the kind folks at Audio Technica for providing the microphone that Alan uses, the AT2020 USB X. Whether you're just starting out on your content creator journey or you're a seasoned pro, Audio Technica has the products for you. Um, so we have been offline for a couple weeks. It's been kind of busy, kind of crazy. We had PAX, and then it was Labor Day, and all that business going on, and then I got the plague. So I was in no position to be doing much talking last week. Um,
Tax plague.
and yeah, PAX plague, PAX pox, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't COVID, but man, it knocked me on my ass. I was in rough shape. Like I had gotten COVID before, and I felt pretty terrible when I had COVID, but like arguably, I felt worse during this whatever this was. So, um, yeah, not a good
Were you
time.
able to do
But
any gaming even though you didn't feel that great?
what's that?
Were you able to do any gaming even though you didn't feel that great?
I was able to do some gaming. I so during the downtime, I played on my Steam Deck. I did a lot of Fields of Mystria. Um, and then Astrobot came out. And so, kind of like in the latter days where I was sort of isolating, like my wife was sleeping on the couch and I was in the room kind of isolated. Because even though it's not COVID, I didn't want to like be coughing all over everybody and getting everybody sick. Um, I had set up my deck to do remote play, which works like a charm, by the way, works so well. And I use that to play Astrobot. Um, and I already shared my review on Astrobot. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's a superb game. It honestly just kind of like reminded me of the joy that gaming can bring. Um, and yeah, I had a great time with it. The main thing with using the Steam Deck though is that you don't get all the dual sense stuff. So like those like um the initial levels and the initial gameplay, I was definitely missing out on quite a bit when it came to the DualSense integration. And then when I was feeling better a couple days later, and I started doing my proper like playthrough on my PlayStation with my Astrobot limited edition controller, which I also picked up, it felt great. It's probably some of the best use of the DualSense that I've ever experienced. So yeah, I mean that's most of the gaming that I did while I was sick was Fields of Mystria, um, Astrobot. I rolled credits on Astrobot, and so now I've been dabbling a bit more in Wukong, um, and then uh, I'm actually going to go back to my backlog. So probably going to do Fallen Order, or I mean Jedi Survivor here pretty soon, and then probably knock out some missions in GTA 5 and try to advance the narrative a bit more because I know we left things off with GTA 5, so I should
Yes,
probably pick
yes,
that back
we have.
up. uh, but yeah, I mean that's what I've been up to. How about you? How's your last couple weeks been?
They've been mostly chill. I did actually try out some new stuff on Game Pass because, as everybody who's been listening knows, I'm like a FIFA fiend. Like that's like my go-to game, easy hop in and out, and like I always end up just like looking at the massive list of things available on Game Pass, and I'm like, I can't make a decision. I'm just gonna go play FC 24 now. It's called.
Right.
So yesterday I was like, hey, or actually no, it was over the weekend. No, yeah, yesterday was the weekend. What am I talking about? But anyway, the last few days I was like, hey, here's this game called Expeditions Mud Runner, and I'm like, it could be my cozy game, kind of like the way Fields of Mystery is for you, because it's basically just the concept is you're kind of dropped into this sort of wilderness. You get a truck and you traverse the game world and go deliver something or like help another truck that's stuck in the mud. That kind of game. And so I dropped into it, and like everything went okay. At first, I'm like, I feel like this could definitely be it, because like it's more than just driving. There's a lot of like minutia that goes into it. Like you can change like the axles for like more traction. You can also inflate your tires or deflate them. Again, that affects traction and how it controls. And a lot of other you're constantly making decisions of like, okay, do I take this stuff with me? But if I do, that's gonna weigh me down. So I'm gonna use up more fuel. So like I actually was looking forward to kind of like messing with all of those systems. But man, once I actually started driving, it felt terrible. Like driving it in this game is like so squirrely, it's insane. Even kind of going slow. Like I had never felt like I had great control of the truck, but I guess that's kind of like the point of it being in the mud. Um
Yeah, yeah.
but still I felt like it was a little too punishing for my gameplay style.
Mm.
um so like another one was like, oh, here's this zone, go to it. I'm like, okay, cool, there's a river, but like who cares, I got this big ass truck, I'm gonna drive through this river. Immediately get stuck, engine dies, game over. Sweet. Then another mission, it's like, hey, go help this truck, he's been stuck. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna jump into it. I'm gonna go, and I get there. I'm like, cool, and like this is actually not like much more enjoyable than like just dying out in a river. Um, but like, so I get my winch, I hook them up. I'm like, all right, buddy, we got you. We're getting you out. And like the thing just does not move, and I'm just like, why is this not moving? Why, is nothing? I'm trying to like, okay, maybe in this direction, or I move them in this other direction, and like nothing I tried worked until the point like I got stuck again. But like I guess the mud was so deep that as I tried to go forward, like there's this really tall grass as part of the mud, completely blocked me in. I'm like, come on, man. This truck should be able to just push the stupid grass aside. Why am I stuck here? Um, so I played that for a couple of hours. Super frustrating. Definitely not for me. If you see it on Game Pass, I would say unless you really know what you're getting into and like this is your genre, like it's not worth it. I would say skip, unless you already know that you're gonna like this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the fun thing with Game Pass, right? Is that there's so much to explore, and there might be something that kind of pops out at you, and you're like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna go play around, but you don't have to spend anything extra, right? You're just like, I get to experiment. It's kind of like walking around GameStop and seeing the $15 or the $20 game in the bargain bin. You're like, oh, this might be fun for $20. And then you pay the $20 and you go home and you're like, this is not fun for $20. And you spent the $20 on it, right? But with Game Pass, it's like, oh, this kind of looks like it could be fun. And then if you don't have a good time with it, it's fine. You got a whole library of games to check out. So that's what I really like about Game Pass. So sorry that it didn't connect with you, but it's good to have a word of warning out there for the listeners. So now you know. Um, awesome. Well, let's dive in. There's been a lot that's happened in the last couple of weeks, so we have a bit of catching up to do. Starting with the PS5 Pro costs how much? So Sony announces a $700 PS5 Pro with a larger GPU, advanced ray tracing, and AI upscaling. This is from Tom Warren at The Verge. The PS5 Pro is official. After months of leaks, Sony just announced a more powerful PS5 console during a special technical presentation. Mike Cerny, the lead architect of the PS5 console, says the PS5 Pro improves on the original console in three key ways: a larger GPU, advanced ray tracing, and custom AI-driven upscaling. The PS5 Pro will launch on November 7th, priced at $699.99, but we'll call it a good 700 US dollars. And it looks similar to the slim version of the PS5, just like recent leaks suggested it would. It has three stripes down the side, and it doesn't come with a disk drive. You'll be able to purchase a 4K Blu ray disk drive separately and optional console covers. It's the most powerful console we've ever built, says Cerny. The hardware upgrades inside will result in 45% faster rendering, according to Cerny, and should improve the detail of certain games and frame rates. One of the key reasons for the PS5 Pro is to allow PS5 Pro players to not have to choose performance modes over fidelity ones. Players are choosing performance about 3/4 of the time. Sony has upgraded the GPU inside the PS5 Pro with 67% more compute units than the current PS5 console, and it has 28% faster memory too. This all adds up to 45% faster rendering of games and the ability to improve frame rates and titles without having to lose visual fidelity. As an aside, Mark Cerny has a great ASMR voice, by the way. I could listen to him talk about PS5 specs as I drift off to sleep. It's very strangely comforting. This extra power should also improve ray trace games, with Sony suggesting that developers will be able to allow the rays to be cast at double and at times triple the speed of the current PS5 console. The PS5 Pro also includes Sony's new AI powered PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR, feature, which is essentially an upscaling technique similar to the NVIDIA's DLSS or AMD's FSR to improve frame rates and image quality for PlayStation games. This custom PSSR upscaling is designed to replace the game's existing temporal anti-aliasing or upsampling implementation. Sony demonstrated a few games running on PS5 Pro, including Last of Us Part 2 with more detail, also Spider-Man 2 and Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart. They're also including a game boost option, which will apply to more than 8,500 backwards compatible PS4 games for the PS5 Pro. This feature may stabilize or improve the performance of supported PS4 and PS5 games, says Hideki Nishino, CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment's Platform Business Group. Enhanced image quality for PS4 games is also available to improve the resolution on select PS4 games. It'll support Wi-Fi 7, VRR, 8K resolutions. As CNET Scott Stein, who got an early hands-on look with the console, says, it also now comes with a 2 terabyte solid-state drive and swaps one of its rear USB-A port for an extra USB-C port instead. It will also include an extra SSD slot for expansion. First PS5 Pro enhanced games will include Alan Wake 2, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Demon's Souls, Dragon's Dogma 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Gran Turismo 7, Hogwarts Legacy, Horizon Forbidden West, Spider-Man 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Crew Motorfest, First Descendant, and The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. And yeah, pre-orders for the PS5 Pro will start on the 26th ahead of the launch at retailers on November 7th. All right. So PS5 Pro is here. We saw the announcement they were going to do technical demo, and it was short. It was like 15 minutes. It was very short, or 8 minutes. It was very short. And it comes out. Mark Cerny gives you all the details. He reveals the price. Alan, what happens? What do you do?
Oh, I'm shocked. To me that was worst case scenario of like that 700. I was hoping that the ideal would be like the PS4 Pro, where it came in at the launch price of the original. The original takes $100 price cut, and all is well, and gamers across the country can jump for joy. But no, it was not that.
Yeah,
And let
yeah.
me tell you, Jeremy, I've gone through the stages of grief with this thing: anger, depression, bargaining, and finally acceptance that I'm not getting this. This is way too much. And
Yeah.
like all I can do now, because remember, my PS5 is dead. I have not played any PS5 in months because the thing just died on me. And like the worst
Mhm.
kind of death. There's no light to go off of. It's dead, dead. Probably like the APU or something, which sucks.
Right.
So now it's just like, okay, now I'm just hoping that at least the PS5 digital goes on sale during Black Friday, like a nice like $100 price reduction for Black Friday, and get
Mhm.
that. Because yeah, the 699 is way too much.
The Yeah, and it's crazy because they're increasing the prices in other markets, right? It's going up, like in Japan, the price of the DualSense is going up. I was in a very similar boat as you. Like going into the technical presentation, I was thinking I'm gonna get a PS5 Pro. Like I was a
Same.
shoe in for it. Like I was like, yes, this is gonna happen. I'm gonna sell my old one. I'm gonna pay the difference, maybe like 150, $200. Um, and I'll upgrade and I'll have, the latest and greatest, and I'll ride that out through the rest of the generation. I'll get to enjoy GTA 6 on the PS5 Pro. I'll get to enjoy, Ghost of Tsushima 2 and like all the other games that are eventually coming before the PS5 says goodbye, right? Um, and then they make that presentation and they reveal the price, and I'm like, ooh, okay. And like initially, I took a couple steps back and I was like, okay. Mm, no, I'm still gonna get it. I'm still gonna get it. And then it was like, no disk drive. Ooh, right. And then like it hit me again. And I was like, oh gosh, like so like another $80 to get the disk drive. And then it's like no vertical stand. Oh, like all these like little things.
Yeah,
And
you're past $800 at that point.
yeah, yeah. And now you're paying 850, right? Like taxes, all that stuff to like get into the console, and you're gonna sell your old one for like 550 probably. So now I'm spending 300. And what they
No, no,
showed,
no. Because right now the you can go to a store and just get a brand new one for 500, and I think GameStop
right.
was giving 385.
Right. So now that's way more, right? So even let's say on the market, like on OfferUp, right? Like if they're selling it for 500 at GameStop, you're like, okay, 450, right? Like I have some extra storage in mine too. I did upgrade. I put like an extra terabyte in there or something, so I can carry that forward. But I already spent the money on the card too, so that's like six in one hand, half dozen the other. But anyways, so yeah, let's say I got 450 for it, right? Now that's $400 out of pocket. It's like a whole new console, and what they showed didn't sell me on it. You know what I mean? Like the technical demo that they gave was not enough for me to be like, yes, that's worth it. You know what I mean? Um, for that price difference. Now, if they had come out and said, you know, 600 digital, 650 physical with the stand and everything, you know what I mean? Like that I could get, right? Because then if I sold mine for 450, I'd pay like $200, like whatever. That's about what I was expecting to pay. But like the nickel and diming and the lack of a physical drive totally turned me off of it. And I wanted to buy one. I did. I went into that presentation like wallet open, like ready to go, like literally like Mark Sony, take my money.
Ready
And
to
then
swipe the card.
I was ready to swipe the card. And then they showed all that. And then I was like, actually, I just closed my wallet and I put it in my pocket. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I can stick with my PS5. Like, I'm just gonna, this is my console for the generation. You know what I mean? So um it's it's disappointing. I really hope that they're seeing all the discourse around the removal of the drive, and there's a lot of gamers who are really not happy with that. Like they want the choice, and they want the choice outside of buying the drive separately, right? Like we want Sony to build a SKU with the drive and give us the option like they did with the PS5, right? Like build a digital one. Sure, there are people that have huge digital libraries. Hell, I have a decent amount of digital titles, right? That's fine. I get it. But build a SKU with a drive and give us the option and like give us the benefit, like pass on the benefit of the mass production so that we don't have to pay $80 for the drive. We pay $50 for the drive. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, I think though that for them, this is like they're sort of paving the way for the PS6. I think the PS6 is going to be similar, where yeah, we'll have the disc drive, but it's going to be separate though, because like when you really look at the design of the PS5, like it's so painfully obvious that it was like a digital first console. Like the way the lines are on this thing, like as soon as you slap the drive on, it just looks kind of goofy. Like,
yeah,
so I
I mean,
think that they
I
want to
don't
be able
mind.
to design the PS6 without even have to worry of like, yeah, you're gonna get the attachment. It's gonna look ugly, but you're not gonna ugly up our pretty digital console.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the bump. Like I'll take the ugly drive because I do have the physical library that I like to use, and also I mentioned this on Twitter as well. Like, and we've had this conversation on the pod before, right? Like the the structure of folks um who buy games, play games, sell the game to fund their next one. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is that is not a small demographic, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's a much larger demographic than I think a lot of people give credit for, and so I think that is going to greatly disrupt that flow, um, if we move to strictly digital, you know what I mean? So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that PS6 will be strictly digital, but it will be designed first and foremost to look the way it should as a digital console, and then you can slap on the ugly bump. But what was I to say? I feel like with the PS5 Pro, I wonder, you know, what's coming down the pike though,
Yeah.
because I feel like that is when the PS5 Pro will really shine, like stuff that is still maybe like a year away, a year and a half, probably GTA 6, which I'm sure Sony has gotten a look at by now and knows kind of what that game demands. And it's like, man, I feel like we may need to move sooner rather than later to the PS5 Pro to get like
Ye
a decent experience on like a GTA 6.
yeah. I Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, well, I mean, this kind of relates to our next story, right? I mean, and we can get into that, but in terms of what the PlayStation 6 will look like, I mean, we got a chip leak, but I I'm still hopeful that they will maintain the same structure that they had for their console, at least when it comes to the launch of the PS6. Like, if they want to make their mid console update digital only going forward, okay, sure. But I think whenever the new generation arrives, I think there should be like the physical and the non-physical options. And in terms of the aesthetic, you're right. Like at least with the PS5, this design does look a bit weird with the disk drive, but maybe the next iteration will be departed enough that incorporating the disk drive won't be as like aesthetically obvious, or you know it may like a tier, even like almost like kind of like layers of a cake, right? Like maybe the disk drive is like the lower layer or the upper layer or something, but it looks more natural than the overall design of the console.
Kind of like the Sega CD.
Yeah, exactly. Why if it's not broke, don't fix it. But anyway, let's transition into the next story actually with that in mind. So, PlayStation 6 chip leak points to backwards compatibility. And this is from Jacob Siegel at BGR. Um, it hasn't even been a week since the Sony announced the PS5 Pro, but the PS6 leaks have begun popping up online. Reuters report that Intel was in talks with Sony for a contract to design and fabricate the chips for the PlayStation 6, but ended up losing out to AMD. According to the report, Intel and AMD were the last two contenders competing for the contract. AMD designed the custom chips that Sony uses in the PS5 and the PS5 Pro, but this would have been a major win for Intel, which is looking to grow its budding contract manufacturing business. The contract would have amounted to billions of dollars of revenue and fabricating thousands of silicon wafers a month, two sources told Reuters. While a dispute over the profit Intel would take home from each chip sold to Sony contributed to AMD's victory, backwards compatibility also played a part. Backwards compatibility, the ability to play older games from previous generations on the latest hardware, has long been a priority for PlayStation. Not only can the PS5 play every digital and physical PS4 game, but the company has also brought dozens of classic PS1, PS2, and PS3 games to the PS5 through its PlayStation Plus subscription service. Intel and Sony engineers and executives reportedly discussed the risks associated with using a new chipset. Ensuring backward compatibility with prior versions of the PlayStation would have been costly and required engineering resources. And we strongly disagree with the characterization, but are not going to comment about any current or potential client customer conversations, Intel spokesperson said in response. We have a very healthy customer pipeline across our product and foundry businesses. We are squarely focused on innovating to meet their needs. Um, Whatever the case, it's nice to know that Sony seemingly is prioritizing backwards compatibility for the next generation. Um, so yeah, I mean, it seems to be kind of front and center in terms of why AMD ultimately won out the contract. I think the familiarity with the company as well, providing the chips before, But yeah, I mean, what's your ideal PS6 look like, Alan? Like, what do you really need for, what are you really hoping for from the PS6, or rather, what are you really hoping to avoid with the PS6?
I would like something a little more, I guess, back to a traditional box. Like, honestly, the PS5 is kind of a pain in the ass to like position either vertically or horizontally.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
bit bulky. Yeah,
yeah, especially because I have it horizontal. Like, I don't have space to like put it up vertically. So like, I feel like it's very like if I even nudge it just slightly, it's like it's wanting to spin on me. Like it sucks. Um Honestly, I feel like Xbox did a much better job. Like it's obviously a box, but it's still they were still able to make it look fresh and unique with its design.
right,
Like man, I would love for it to go back to like almost like a PS2 style. Like I feel like aesthetically speaking, a lot of stuff from like late 90s, early 2000s is kind of coming back into style and they can kind of get away with it. And it would be more of a return to like a more traditional like console type of look. But obviously you could add some more like modern flair to it. Um as far as like the chip thing goes, like it doesn't surprise me at all that they went with AMD. And my guess as to why they brought in Intel was just because you got to at least make AMD work for it, like if the company feels like, oh, well, we already know, like we got the backwards compatibility, we did the last one, we got it in the bag. And I feel like complacency like that will lead to probably a worse design, a lazier design. But I don't think Intel really had like a real chance at it just because again of the backwards compatibility issue. Um, but yeah, what about you? What do you want to see on in terms of the design of the PS6?
I mean, I like I already said, I want a disk drive. It's fine if there's two SKUs, but I want a disk drive.
But, like, with the
Um,
PS funny that you mentioned that because the PS2 had, like, a port for, like, a hard drive, so, like, why couldn't you just turn that into the port for, like, the disk drive or something and, like, slot it in through there?
yeah, I mean, maybe there could be something like that. I mean, again, I would want, if they're going to have the consumer purchase the disk drive, I want the price to go down. like like $80 for the disk drive is kind of silly. Like I feel like we're in 2024. We we either get the benefit of a disk drive at a lower price because it's manufactured as part of a SKU, or they bring that price down to 40 or $50, and make the
My
install,
guess,
to your
though,
point,
is
a bit more easier to manage.
my guess as to why it hasn't gone down is probably because it is, like, a custom like, you gotta like, the way they design where it's got that little connector and everything, they probably had to do a lot of R&D work, which they obviously bake into the cost of the thing, which is
Yeah.
probably why it costs more than, like, an external, Blu-ray drive.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But anyway, so want that. And it's I think about the PS3, right? And the PS3 obviously was another console that was poorly priced, right? That's part of the reason why like Xbox got a leg up in that generation, was the PS3 was just so expensive. But the first generation or two, I think it was, iterations, the backwards compatibility of that console remains for me the gold standard. Like, if you could grab a disc from a PS1 and put it into your console and it will work, like fucking gold star. Like that's the kind of like backwards compatibility that I would love to see again. Like, maybe not all the way back to the PS1. Like, I get it, like maybe you have to digitize it or whatever, but like I want a broad, a broad spectrum of backwards compatibility, to be able to open up that library and to allow Sony fans, new and old, to enjoy the extensive library they've built over the last, you know, what is it now, 30, 40 years, right? So, um, 30 years, 30 plus years. So I think that's really what, like, I'm hoping for, like, technically from this console, is like definitely backwards compatibility, as the widest umbrella, that can be given. Um, and from there, you know, obviously, better performance and like, lightning fast load times and all the other good stuff that's going to make the games like feel really good. Um, but that's what I want out of the PS6. So
What about like the physical form of it though? Do you like my idea of kind of being like a PS2 sort of revival
I like the
design?
PS2 design. I did like the PS2 design a lot. And then, with the PS3, right? That's kind of when they moved in the direction that we are now, right? They kind of iterated on the 3 to get to the well, the 4, they went more blocky, right? So, like, the 3 was round, the 4 was a bit more angular, and now the 5 is a bit more rounded again. Um, or at least has some more of those, like, softer lines to it. So, I could see them going back to I liked the PS2 design, and I liked
Do you think the
the
nerds would lose it if they saw like a PS2 like design?
I think that'd be awesome. I think that would be great. And the cool thing is too, I think you could kind of get away with a PS2 design. I mean, I think the box would be bigger, obviously, but just with how technology has advanced, I feel like you could effectively get it into a shell that size. Um, so yeah, I'd be down for a PS2 design again. I think that'd be cool. Um,
Yeah, I'd like it too, to be honest.
well, I mean, okay, what's your favorite PlayStation design of all time?
Probably the PS2.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. I think for me, I think the classic, like the original PS1 was so freaking cool. Like I really like the original design. Um and I also like kind of like the unique things they did with it within that generation as well, like with the portable PS1 and like all that other cool stuff too. But yeah, so I think the classic PlayStation design is probably my favorite, but PS2 is very close. Like, the eject button, like the whir of the mechanical gears as it like opened the Blu-ray tray and all that good stuff. Because the PS2 could play Blu-rays, right? Or was it the three
It was DVDs. Yeah, like Blu-rays was
DVDs?
until the PS3.
Yeah, yeah, okay. That's a bit too soon. That's what started the HD DVD and Blu-ray war, right? What's the
Yeah,
PS2?
yeah, yeah. And also
PS3 and
like
the Xbox.
to go real quickly back to the PS5 Pro before we move on, I'm gonna be really interested because like obviously people are gonna like tear this thing down. That's like one of the things that just tech tubers and YouTubers do of like, oh, let's just take it all apart. And I want to see what the bill of materials is on the PS5 Pro, and if that could really stir the pot and rise up the anger. Uh, do you know what the bill of materials is? Basically, like the cost of what it actually is to make a PS5 Pro.
I don't. I haven't specced out the cost of all the hardware or anything, but I feel like there was a lot of discourse around like building a PC, right? That could perform the same, and a lot of people were like, "You're not going to be able to build one for 700 and blah blah blah," and then other
No, no,
people were
yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Well,
100%. But I just like I will be interested to see like once people actually get a chance because like usually there are like groups that will tell you, hey, we broke it down
like
as here's
Digital
how much.
Foundry, yeah,
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 yeah, how much it
yeah,
would cost for like Sony to make this specific box, and if it's like it cost them like 350 and like they're just pure margins after that, like people are gonna be pissed.
yeah." Um, yeah, really, the only people right now, at least initially, the people who will know like, the true cost per unit are people inside of like Sony's manufacturing and stuff and marketing, because there's the components, but then there's also all of the
Yeah.
overhead, right? Like there's like they know how much they're paying the vendors, the contractors, the shipping, the tariffs, like all that stuff. Like they're so they can get that like final number right at the bottom of the line, or at the bottom of the page to be like, okay, it costs us $420 to build one of these, and we're gonna sell it for
Well, I
six
can
hundred.
tell you the marketing is probably gonna be 0. It's just the marketing was just Mark Cerny waltzing on out and telling us, how cool it is and how much it costs.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you though, that's that ASMR Cerny voice. It's effective. I almost. I mean, that's what almost got me to do it. Like
It
he was
almost
talking to
lulled
me.
you into opening up that wallet, huh?
He was crooning me. He was crooning me, and I was like, you know what? Okay, Mark, I can do it. And then I saw the
Yes,
price,
Mark,
and I was like,
here's all
no,
the $700.
you can have all of my money. All right. Well, enough about Sony stuff. Let's talk about Xbox. I'm sure things are going fine over there. Oh wait, Xbox lays off 650 more people. Bummer. Spencer says no more games are canceled. This is from Ollie Welsh at Polygon. Microsoft is laying off a further 650 people from its gaming division, months after it laid off 1,900 Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox employees and shuttered several game studios, including Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks. Microsoft's gaming head Phil Spencer said no games were being canceled and no studios would be closed as a result of the new round of cuts. Excellent. So everything will proceed as planned, but with 650 less people, that will surely not be a problem. Spencer made the announcement on Thursday morning in an internal memo seen by The Verge. He said the cuts were mostly to corporate and supporting functions as the Xbox business continued to reorganize following Microsoft's $68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And then here is what the memo says. For the past year, our goal has been to minimize disruption while welcoming new teams and enabling them to do their best work. As part of aligning our post acquisition team structure and managing our business, we have made the decision to eliminate approximately 650 roles across Microsoft Gaming, mostly corporate and supporting functions, to organize our business for long term success. I know that this is difficult news to hear. We are deeply grateful for the contributions of our colleagues who are learning that they are impacted. In the U.S., we're supporting them with exit packages that include severance, extended healthcare, and outplacement services to help with their transition. Outside the U.S., packages will differ according to location. With these changes, our corporate and supporting teams and resources are aligned for sustainable future growth and can better support our studio teams and business units with programs and resources that can scale to meet their needs. Separately, as part of running the business, there are some impacts to other teams as they adapt to shifting priorities and manage the lifecycle and performance of games. No games, devices, or experiences are being canceled, and no studios are being closed as part of these adjustments today. Throughout our team's history, we have had great moments and we have had challenging ones. Today is one of the challenging days. I know that going through more changes like this is hard, but even in the most trying times, this team has been able to come together and show one another care and kindness as we work to continue delivering for our players. We appreciate your support as we navigate these changes, and we thank you for your compassion and respect for one another. Well, they say that it's only, you know, corporate and supporting functions. So I guess we'll see how that pans out. But another
Yeah, the bloodbath
another round of
continues.
layoffs. Yeah,
The bloodbath continues.
I mean, yeah, we'll see how it pans out. I'm interested to see actually like if this was actually a more strategic cost cutting maneuver, right? Like did they actually like look at everything and be like, you know what? Yes, we have some fat we can trim and removing it from the right places, right? Instead of, you know, removing game developers or closing a studio or whatever and then keeping these other roles that maybe aren't offering as much value. So I mean, I guess that's kind of the silver lining is obviously 650 people affected, not helpful, right? They're like, oh great, like I'm useless, awesome, thanks for that. But from a strategic perspective and at least from like the news itself, the silver lining can be, you know, better for them to like select the right roles to be reduced or excised versus like going in and just like taking like a cleaver to game studios and then impacting projects negatively down the stream. So oh well, we'll see. Speaking of studio closures, well, it's not a closure, but still, speaking of studio craziness, Annapurna Interactive staff mass resigns following failed spin-off negotiations. This is an exclusive report from Bloomberg by Jason Schreier, the man, the myth, the legend. And then this is actually an article from Sal Romano over at Gamatsu. It says the entire staff at Annapurna Interactive resigned this month following a dispute with owner Megan Ellison, reported by Jason Schreier, who is citing people familiar with the matter. Annapurna Interactive president Nathan Gary and his team were reportedly negotiating with Ellison to spin off the division, which publishes video games, into an independent entity. But when Ellison pulled out of the negotiations, Gary and other executives resigned, followed by around 2 dozen staff. A spokesperson for Annapurna Interactive confirmed to Bloomberg that it had explored spinning off the company into an independent entity, but the two parties failed to reach an agreement, leading to the resignations. Our top priority is continuing to support our developer and publishing partners during this transition, Ellison told Bloomberg in a statement. We've committed to not only our existing slate of games, but also expanding our presence in the interactive space as we continue to look for opportunities to take a more integrated approach to linear and interactive storytelling across film and TV, gaming, and theater. Developers who have publishing contracts with Annapurna Interactive have reportedly scrambled to find new points of contact to figure out whether the company will continue to fund and publish their games following the mass resignations. And the Annapurna Interactive spokesperson told Bloomberg that all existing games and projects will remain under the company. And newly appointed president Hector Sanchez has reportedly told developers it will honor existing contracts and replace the departed staff. It should be noted that Annapurna Interactive parent company Annapurna Pictures and not Annapurna Interactive itself recently signed a deal with Remedy to co-produce and co-finance the development of Control 2, as well as develop and produce the Alan Wake and Control franchises for film, television, and other audiovisual formats. So, when I heard this news, that's what I was initially kind of concerned about, because like I know that Remedy is doing a lot of cool stuff with with Control, with Alan Wake. And so I thought, oh man, like this is going to be a mess. But it is related to Annapurna Pictures, which is the parent company, and not this subdivision of Annapurna. But yeah, crazy. Like they wanted to go independent, and it didn't work out. And now they're like, fine, we're going to go really independent.
No, this is nuts. Like I don't know how Annapurna Interactive recovers because it's like that's so much experience, like relationships with developers. That's all just walked out the door. Like not a single one of them stayed. It's just like the CEO, and it's like, all right, like we
Yeah,
know that you don't do that much. Your skill set is very different from interacting with game devs and
the
checking
marketing,
to make
the
sure to
strategy, yeah,
exactly. So
distribution.
I don't know how do you even begin to like hire like anybody who is
Yeah,
interested in this space knows what just happened. So like, why do I want to? The really like experienced folks are not going to want to step in here, and then probably even new folks will be like, I saw what happened. Like, it's just I don't know how they can bounce back from this.
yeah,
And it sucks because Annapurna was like in a really interesting place in the games industry. I kind of felt like they were almost like an A20, like on the movie side, like A24 or like Criterion even, of
right,
like
right, right.
having cool, interesting little games that did well from what I could tell. Because I mean, they kept publishing them. So and everyone always really had like positive things to say about Annapurna Interactive. So it's just wild to see it shift from like being this darling of like indie game space to now like possibly a pariah.
Yeah, I mean it's um yeah, I mean it's really interesting with like the kind of the reputation that Annapurna has taken on as like a game publisher and developer. And you're mentioning like the whole staff quits. It's like the ship of Theseus question, right? Like how much of the ship can you replace before it's just a new ship? In this case, everybody's gone. Like if everybody at Annapurna leaves and the CEO hires an entirely new staff, is it really Annapurna? Right? Like, no, it's not. So, um, that it's a really intriguing thing, and it's interesting, like just from like kind of like my corporate perspective, right? Like I think about it, over time, naturally, like you're going to lose resources and you're going to rehire resources, right? So, if I've got a team of 20 people, and over the next year, a couple people will resign or they go to another company or whatever, and I bring in new people, the other 18 people are they're instilling the culture, they're bringing their learns, they're like they're basically helping to incorporate and integrate those new resources into the team, and the spirit of the company remains, right? So like even if a good chunk of Annapurna had left, like 25% or maybe even 50%, right? There could have been an argument could be made that, well, at its core, they'll still be Annapurna. They know what they're about. They know what they need to do. This, I mean, I don't know how you effectively say that Annapurna Interactive still exists. Like, it doesn't
Yeah,
exist
yeah,
anymore. The entire team resigning is effectively like closing the studio. Like, even if they hire more people to fill in those spaces and be like, "Oh no, we're still Annapurna," it's like, no, you're not. Like, you're not Annapurna Interactive anymore. So it's just really, really interesting. Yeah, it's just a really interesting phenomenon. And again, I don't know. I was in the room where it happened, right? So I don't know what led to it, but it must have been pretty bad to basically, for the staff to basically, no, we're just going to pack our stuff, we're going to take our ball and go home. And I would not be surprised if in like a month or two, they're like, "Hey, remember all those Annapurna people? Yeah, here's a new studio," right? And taking those customers and doing their marketing thing and just kind of creating their own independent team, which is what they wanted in the first place. So it's just crazy to me, absolutely crazy. Um, but anyways, there's been a lot in the last couple weeks. Astrobot came out; it was amazing. One of the highest rated games of the year. We got this PS5 Pro nonsense; it's way too expensive. We got PS6 leaks. We got Annapurna going crazy and blowing up. Um, but what about a deal, Alan? Do you have a deal for us that maybe can shine a little light on the rest of this kind of crazy news?
absolutely, I do. So, as everybody knows, Jeremy has a Steam Deck. He loves it
I do.
to the
It's true.
point where I think he it's one of the reasons he sold his like desktop PC because he's just like, I'm handheld gamer for life.
It's
Anyway,
true. I used it so much. I brought my Steam Deck to PAX, and I was playing that thing. I was playing Fields of Mystery at the airport. I was playing some Balatro on the plane. Like, I was having a grand old time. That Steam Deck is, and I was using my PlayStation Remote Play. Amazing, amazing. Steam Deck's so good.
so if anyone wants to join Jeremy in being blessed by the Steam Deck, now's a pretty good chance because LCD Steam Decks are on sale. 15% off the 64 gigabyte model and 25% off the 512 gigabyte model. So if you don't necessarily want to go in and like change the storage yourself, which is still a pretty easy process, I would say that you can do it yourself. But with the price reduction, I think it kind of gets to the point where it's like almost the same as doing it yourself. So if you know you're gonna you're gonna want that higher storage count, I would say just go for that 512 model, and then further down the line when you feel like I really need more space, you can then install a bigger one when storage is less expensive. But yeah, those are really solid prices. Unfortunately, no OLEDs on sale, which I think is not too surprising. I think they know what they've got with that OLED set, and that like that's like the preferred one and the one that everybody wants. So yeah, that's it for Deals Corner.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm waiting for a good deal on the OLED and or an update to the Steam Deck that includes the OLED. So I'm really loving my LCD. Like I said, I upgraded the storage on mine. I definitely would say, like, definitely compare the 64 to the 512 with the discounted prices because, there are also opportunities to get, um, the storage updates, like the internal cards, like a terabyte internal card for a pretty good deal. Um, and then, do that upgrade yourself. And then you end up with a terabyte Steam Deck for, well under what they would charge you through the store. So, um, but yeah, I mean, keep an eye out for that. Steam Deck, like I said, great piece of hardware. Love the handheld gaming experience, and it does everything that I need it to do, and then some. All right. Well, that's about it for this week's episode. Thanks again to all of our listeners. If you enjoy listening to us chatter about games and all that good stuff, please feel free to leave us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can also follow us on the Geekly Grind and check out our website, thegeeklygrind.com, and do all those great things to support us. Really appreciate it. Until next time, though, I'm Jeremy.
I'm Alan.
Keep gaming, everybody.
See ya.